Okay. Well, welcome back, Holly. Just for the audience to remind them, our poor last episode with you was only like 30 minutes because of tech issues. I will let you know. I
Mhm.
restarted my computer. I checked the internet. I did all of the things to make sure because I was like, poor little Holly. But I also, can I just tell you this? It must have been divine intervention because otherwise we wouldn't have scheduled you on this date to come back, and I really needed that conversation that we just had.
Yeah.
So, like, thank you, and you've been such a lovely, supportive ally, and I really appreciate you so
Yeah,
much.
my pleasure, and I'm glad to be here.
Mm. Okay,
Yeah.
so did you have anything specific in mind that you wanted to talk about?
So, I actually didn't. I didn't come with much. I can just talk about what I'm doing, but because I really just wanted to give you space for. I know you've had a tough month, so I didn't really come with anything to specific to talk about. But again, I have all the stuff that I'm doing. So yeah, it's up to you. And
Yeah.
and I think just having these amazing conversations about you know, and even grief, but grief strengths and what we do to help ourselves through these moments.
Yeah.
Even our conversation a moment ago about when people are angry. Like anger
Yes.
doesn't help, and there's tools to work through. And the anger is the symptom. It's not what's really happening. It's how it's being expressed. So there's so much that we could just dive into and talk about. So it's up to you. Where do you want to go?
Well, okay, I have a couple of things. If we don't get to this, it's fine, but I wanted to unpack with you something that I kind of figured out about myself around labels that I have given myself, and then like the requirements of that label, and kind of like working
Mm,
through dropping that and shedding that. But I do want to touch on what we were just talking about with anger too, really quick.
okay.
Um, because I told you, and I have said this on a solo episode, that I'm triggered by anger, more so than ever right now, and so you had suggested to me about a grief group, and I was like, "Weird, I've been considering one,"
Mm,
but my hesitation was the anger thing, and then, so we talked about that and kind of what I have believed anger to be in my life, but I'm wondering what you think about this. And this is just from I'm asking this from a trauma perspective, like we're
okay.
helping people work through trauma and whatever,
Yeah.
because I don't think you have to have a expertise in grief for this. So what do you think about, because people say a stage of grief is anger,
Mhm.
though Elizabeth Kubler-Ross actually wrote that book about stages of dying and anger being a
Mhm.
part of that process. I think anger can be a natural process and piece of grief, but what do you think about people who, I, I guess I'm going to phrase it like this, are really comfortable being in their anger
Yeah.
as long as they feel like they want to be in
Yeah.
grief or otherwise?
Yeah. Well, I don't think people are necessarily comfortable in anger. I think it's comfortable because it's what they know and they haven't experienced another way. So it's not necessarily being comfortable there. It's just, our childhood experiences. Maybe that was what was modeled. So it's just this normal way of being for them,
Mhm.
even though it's not something that they want. And I would probably bet anybody on their deathbed, anybody who as they're older learns tools to not be so angry anymore are so grateful that they did. I actually just this
Yeah.
actually might have been a um fiction TV show, but I just saw something where somebody who had an accident that left him paralyzed, who he said, "This is who I was before that accident." And that accident was the hardest thing I ever went through. It rocked my world, but it also taught me perspective that, I was hot-headed, I was this and I was that. So hopefully we don't have to have the tragedy, the rock bottom, the different things that are hurting for us to realize, okay, I am angry. I continually live in this state of anger, and maybe there's something I should do about it. But I think
Yeah.
recognizing it, because I think sometimes people are when people are angry, they don't even see it. They're not the outside looking in. They're just
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I think it's because, that whole concept I've been talking about this a ton lately, just about making our outer world match our inner world. And so maybe you think you're frustrated with your environment, um, but you've created this environment to confirm a narrative, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I that, Holly, has been such a huge lesson for me recently.
Mhm,
I just talked about this on the solo episode I put out today, where I had this whole experience where Brian was out of town last week, at a
mhm.
work trip, and we had a snowstorm coming, and I was
Yes.
very anxious. I was already anxious about him. First of all, I have struggled with anxious attachment my whole life, so, like, this
Mhm,
particular work trip brings stuff up for me us every year,
mhm,
but the last few, I've handled it, like, much better, and then I was really prepared for it this year until I lost my son. And then I was like, "I feel a little abandoned, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's kinda shitty that you're going, but
mhm.
okay." So I worked through it, and I worked through my not enough narrative because 'cause I'm always afraid, like, "What if these kids need something from me?" And then I'm like, "What?" It's so bizarre. Like, I'm their mom, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to say that out loud to somebody unless you've understood your own not enough narrative, but I'm able to isolate the narrative now, address it, whatever. So things were going good. But I was anxious that he wasn't gonna make it home before the snowstorm hit, and then maybe I'm gonna
Mhm,
lose power because we get more ice typically than is forecasted and lose power just
yeah,
statewide, whatever. So I was like, "Oh my god, am I gonna be here with, Charlie and Bryson without him if we lose power?"
mhm.
Whatever. Well, then he flew home early from the trip so he could beat
Mhm,
the snowstorm, and I learned such an important lesson in that because while I knew I felt relieved, I felt pissed. And I was like,
mm.
"Why am I pissed?" Because I just I was I w I'm so grateful to myself for pausing because I was like, "Why?
Yeah.
This is what I wanted, but I know I can feel that I'm uncomfortable with the thought that he did that just for me because I
Mhm,
feel a little bit like a burden." You know what I mean? But
mhm,
ultimately, what it was is it felt for one thing, I didn't like feeling vulnerable to say, like, "I'm relieved," but
mhm.
it felt incongruent for what I was supposed to expect of myself as a strong woman or a spiritual woman, an enlightened woman, a mother, independent one, whatever the words are, I have labeled myself as any one of those things, and I do work so hard to not be codependent anymore and
Mhm,
whatever.
mhm,
And so I think I was shaming myself for needing him in some capacity. Like
yeah,
I'm not supposed to need him ever. And I believe that even through my evolution and growth, that is a thought that I've had more than once,
mhm,
and really trying to understand for myself the difference between interdependence in a partnership and
mhm,
codependence and independence.
mhm.
Like what does each of those look like? But I have never really examined it in this manner because I understood a lot of the behaviors from myself from before. I could see the neon sign of codependence, but I didn't see where I was like using some perfectionism, some shame, like to fulfill the roles of these labels that I had given myself. And
Yeah,
so when I worked through that, I was like, A, tell the man you're grateful and like that you're relieved that he's coming home.
yeah,
And that the physical weight that I had been feeling the second I said, "I'm so relieved and I can't wait to see you," like, which is not like me. I always act a little tough in those situations. So, like,
mhm,
I was like, "No, you need this man, and it's okay to say that." So, like
mhm.
like, I rely on him in our partnership. He does a lot in terms of the, like, Charlie's breakfast, Charlie's lunch, whatever. I was exhausted by the end of that week, like, exhausted.
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, I was really glad he was gonna be there because thinking about him being gone an extra 3 days, I was like, "Oh my god." I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine, but, like, I'm really tired. So,
Yeah.
like, just being soft, allowing softness in that moment,
Mhm.
it just shed so much tension, bracing, whatever,
Yeah.
and I think this is a normal or common trauma response, a way that we
Mhm.
protect ourselves from
Yeah.
others.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and, I had 2 thoughts. I actually had written one of them down from what you said. Just the needing people. Like, I think that that's because I was raised to be independent, and I really value that, but
Mhm.
still need people. Just because 'cause I'm independent doesn't mean I don't need support. We all need support. So when we go into that "I can do this on my own" mentality, then we're labeling ourselves as that independent. We don't need other people. And in reality, we all do, and it's not an issue. We're
Yeah, and I think I needed to hear you say that still, like, affirming what I was feeling to be my truth, but there is several versions of me. I can feel very alive and well who
yeah.
believe that independence means hyper independent, that you could walk into a forest and just live. Cause see, another thing is that my dryer broke the day he left.
Oh.
And so I know, right?
Yeah.
And so I got on Google and I was like, "Oh, that seems easy, a fuse." Okay, so I ordered the part and I was hell bent that I would just fix the dryer. But then I had to give myself permission to be like, "Baby, why? Just wait a
Yeah.
few days for the man to get home. Like I
Right.
can do this. I don't want to do this. Like there are some things that it's handy to have a dude around for. Let's go ahead and let him do that. He's so
Yeah.
good at stuff like that. He gets it
Yeah.
done way faster because he knows exactly how to work those tools. I have to make a conundrum out of everything. So I
And
was
he
just like,
probably enjoys it.
yeah, he likes to make things work and figure it
Yeah.
out, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, I had again, there was that label, and I had already worked through that one where I was like, "You don't have to be tough. What are you trying to prove and
Mhm.
to who?" You know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had so many lessons like that last week, and I felt like major paradigm shifting epiphanies, like
Yeah,
just
nice. Nice. Well,
wow.
and so this leads me to my second thought, and this is what I wrote down as soon as you said it. You said requirements of labeling. And I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, when you label something, now all of a sudden you have all these requirements to stay in that label. And I've
Mhm.
heard that throughout my years in child welfare. We don't want to label kids because now all of a sudden they're in that bucket. And that is not good, but yeah, to really break it down, okay, well, what are the requirements of us staying there? Well, I'm hyper
Yes.
independent, so I'm not gonna ask for help. I am hyper independent, so I can do everything on my own. Well, wait a second. That's not the case. And there's so many labels, when we self-blame, when we judge, whatever it is that we're labeling ourselves, it's kind of like now we gotta live up to it,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah. And even if we don't, and we likely will not, there
Yeah.
starts that shame spiral all over again.
Ah,
So in the perfectionism, like I recognized before, okay, the reason I'm holding other people to this cross of perfectionism is because I hold myself to that same standard. Now, I
mhm,
don't actually believe either of us are going to be perfect, but
mhm.
when we're not, the expectation will be that we shame ourselves to the pits of hell.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
if I don't see you doing that when you make a mistake, you don't care about me, you don't value my feelings, whatever. And that one took a while for me to see because
Mhm.
it really did start with that self-compassion, self-love. And so
Yeah.
whenever I could really cultivate that within me, I could start to see, uh-oh, I can see how I've been imposing this standard on others too. And
Yeah.
it really opened my heart to allowing people to show up imperfectly because I
Mm.
allowed that of myself. And
Mhm.
that's been such a life-altering tool dealing with
Yeah.
grief is
Eh,
because when they show up and people have said stupid shit, I will not lie. But I
mhm.
I take it in the spirit in which it's intended. You know, like, I
Yeah,
know they're trying to show me that they want desperately to make this better for me, that they
yeah,
care so much about my heart, all
yeah,
the things. I'm not gonna say it doesn't irritate the piss out of me for a second, because it does. I'm a human, and it triggers
yeah,
some old wounding that, like, apparently I still needed to work through. And then
yeah,
the next step is for me to go, "That's not how they meant that. That's not what they
yeah,
meant." You know, I know what
yeah,
they meant. So it is a
mhm,
choice at that point. Again, going back to the anger,
yeah,
but I also noticed too in that incongruence that I figured out this week, like, oh, that's incongruent with the label. It's also incongruent with the lie that I have told myself to
mm,
create this reality. It is
mhm,
incongruent with that lie. So
yeah,
if you're presenting me with information that doesn't fit the narrative I've created for this outer world to look a certain way,
yeah,
then I'm gonna buck up against that. You're messing with my barrier here.
yeah,
And that's been something very specifically that I was working on prior to losing Jake, was
mhm,
specifically with my husband, the protective layers that I have in place, because this is the one relationship where I still see this over. He's the one person I take my shit out on still. Like,
mm,
I will still allow myself to take things personally from him. Like, it's just,
mhm,
I am not in any way casual about our relationship the way I am any other. You know, Bryson can show up really imperfectly and I can shift the perspective a bit and be like, oh, I can see what that is. It is not like that with my husband, and I know it's that intimacy, you know, but I've been working really hard on it because I don't wanna treat him like crap, and
yeah,
so then post Jake, because I'm, like, forcing myself to show up real raw and just address everything as it comes, no shoving anything down,
mhm, yeah,
and more than force, allowing myself to
mhm,
transform through this,
yeah,
I'm learning so much about the way I created my reality and what my outer
mhm,
world was trying to match on the inner world. So, yeah, I think when you create those labels and those false expectations, so much of that is to make your outer world match your inner world.
yeah, yeah, and 2 points with that. I love just you saying that, like, what we do, we're gonna see what we wanna see. We're gonna see
Mhm,
what we create.
mm.
Confirmation bias is real,
It is
you
very
know?
real.
Yeah, and so we are seeing we're putting it out there, we're making them match. But you just said force versus allow. I love that because so often, and I think this is something very important for the audience to hear. When you want to make changes, when you want to do different things, it is not forcing anything. When you try to do it, you're just going to fall right back into it because you're like, well, I tried, I failed, and it
Mhm.
didn't work. But when you, and you also said this, the self compassion and self love, when you start there, the rest of it is going to follow. It's not, just snap your fingers. It's not as easy as I just made it said, but it's the start to make everything, like you said, when I allowed myself to show up imperfectly, I stopped having the criticism and expectation of other people to show up.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think everything that we're saying right now feels counterintuitive to the programming we've received. We
Yeah.
think, like, actually, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of picky about who I let on the show, like,
Mhm.
more so than I've ever been, because there are people who still believe shame is an actual tool for change in
Right.
themselves and others. And I'm like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
So I am noticing, and it's kind of like I had a friend who made an Instagram post about 6 months ago. I was like, "Guys, okay, so once you start loving yourself, how in the hell do you continue going to the gym?" And he was so serious, and I was so glad he posed the question, because I'm like, "Yeah, because in my self-love, I got no tools other than the shame to be like, "Get your ass to the gym." You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
I understand taking care of your body is a different form of self-love, but, like, if you're not using your mind to try to logic your way into motivation and discipline, and you really are just leading with the love and compassion you have for yourself, not being led by spite, any of those things, it can be a little trickier to get things done when you're first in that place because we have been so conditioned to allow out external influences to shame us to death and then that
Mhm,
promote movement. And I'm not going to say change, but movement. But that's a
mhm.
reason that you always take one step forward, 20 back when you're
Right.
using those tools for movement. But
Yeah,
you can have actual
yeah,
transformational
yeah,
change when you allow yourself to feel, to to have respect for yourself even if you didn't complete a to-do list, like it would be easy for me to beat myself up like on those days where I have no energy. A
yeah,
former version of me would, but now on the days where I have a lot and I do something productive with that energy because some days I have a lot and I don't. But
yeah,
when I do, yesterday we've had the snow. Finally it's going away. So yesterday I was like, okay, let's put the snacks away. Let's like get this place cleaned up, like whatever.
yeah,
It felt good. I got to be
yeah,
proud of myself and say, "Hey, you did something good for yourself today. Good job." But like
yeah,
I'm just not striving for anything beyond what's right here in front of me
yeah.
anymore because I let my love for myself lead me like just each
Yeah.
step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to answer your question about or just to talk more about your gym analogy,
Yes.
shaming ourselves to go to the gym. I hate the gym. I do not like going. I've had my moments there and it's great, but I don't like the gym. But what I do like is walking. What I do like is yoga.
Yes.
So what I do like is different things that I value. Just I found a wonderful, amazing yoga studio that I go to 4 times a week now. So,
Oh, I love
what is
that.
it yeah, yeah, it's been a blessing. Um, so what is it, if you're forcing yourself to go to the gym, well, what is it? Do you even want to go to the gym? Yes, I want to take care of my body. Yes, I want to not have aches and pains, all of that stuff. Okay, well, what other ways can you do that that resonates with you that you would enjoy that would build you up instead of making you feel, oh, I don't want to even go? So and some people love the gym, so that's for them, it's yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
yeah,
motivated.
I actually really like the gym. I
Mhm,
have the same problem going to the gym as I do doing a yoga video at home, working at, weights at
mhm.
home or walking in the neighborhood. It's the getting up, getting
I'm getting
dressed, getting
it.
it done. It like
Yeah,
literally, it's just that step. Because once I'm
yeah,
out the door, like actually once I have to solidly make the decision and then actually get dressed and then go, everything's good. I love
mm.
going.
Okay, okay,
I
good.
don't love getting ready and going. You
Yeah,
know, like, I want to do it so badly, and I like it a lot when I do,
yeah,
but in my
yeah,
brain, it's like, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of work."
yeah. They always say in your yoga class, the hardest thing was getting on your mat.
Yes! No, that is so real, though.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
but I think that there can be so many learning tools if you don't resist in like,
yeah,
because I don't even fight with myself anymore. I don't like, I'm not gonna spend all day warring with myself about whether or not I'm gonna go. I'm like, "Are we in the mood? No. Okay, we're not going."
yeah.
But I think when you can learn to kinda just work with the energetic cycles, because I mean,
Mhm.
as women especially, we have hormone fluctuations that really do matter.
Yeah,
Um, so just working with that and being like, "Yeah, I don't wanna go." Sometimes it helps because
yeah,
it'll give you more. You're not resisting something. You're not playing tug of war with all your might. Like, should I? Shouldn't I? I don't want to.
yeah.
Allowing yourself to say, I don't want to go sometimes is the fastest way for me to be like, well, I kind of do want to go though.
Mm, yeah. And giving you that space in between those 2 moments of not shaming yourself for not wanting to go.
Yes.
Because then you're
Yeah.
not listening to the, "Oh, I kinda do wanna go," or the, "You know what? I don't wanna go, and that's okay,"
Yes.
and letting it be.
Well, and we had been going really consistently before Jake died. In fact, I worked out the day he
Mhm.
died. But the energy levels were zapped for
Mhm.
weeks for I think not just the grief, but from the lack of sleep that first week, I was like, "Ooh, at 45, you do not recover from that quickly. You do
Yeah.
not." And also the not eating for a couple of days, like, I was doing my best, but, like, I was ill. I just couldn't. But,
Yeah.
like, I was like, "Girl, when you feel like going again, you'll go again." Like, I've
Mhm.
proven to myself I was going 4 days a week and
Mhm.
lifting weights and walking and just doing stuff that felt good for me with 0 attachment to weight loss, like,
Mhm.
literally just with a goal of gaining muscle because I'm 45 and I need to do that, you know? I gotta make sure that my muscles are good and bone health and all the things. So I really was just trying to get healthier, but
Mhm.
I'll go back when I feel like going
Mhm.
back.
Yeah, and just throwing it out there too, when you go back, don't expect to do what you were doing
I
before you
know.
stopped. Build back up to it
But you
because you
know
wanna
what?
then
It
enjoy
happened so
it.
fast, and I remember
Mhm.
that the increase was like I mean,
Yeah,
I was making, like, real gains within 3
yeah,
weeks. So
yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, it's fine." And actually, thinking about starting from the bottom makes the thought of going a little easier because 'cause I'm like, "Those workouts were easy." You
Yeah,
know, like, just a little
yeah,
10 pounds, whatever. I was like,
yeah,
I can do that." And actually, my energy
mhm,
this week has been so much better, so I do anticipate going back again
yeah,
soon,
and
but
starting small.
exactly. Yeah, even if I don't do I mean, I just I would settle for just walking right now, which
Yeah,
Bryson and I did go get us new really good shoes because we
mhm,
also wanna do a couch to 5K and start, like, doing walk, run 5Ks. I
nice.
used to be a runner, and I don't wanna do distance running again, but I was like, "You know what?
Yeah,
The running community is kinda fun. We could start signing up for races, 5K something Charlie could do with us as well."
nice.
So, yeah, I think we're gonna do that.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? Taking your time and being really gentle with yourself right now. When you're ready, you're going to do it. And then if you have that, then it's that extra motivator to dive in deeper at that point.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
again, resistance keeps us stuck, you know?
Hmm.
So I just I try really hard. It happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I do try really hard to just allow anything and
Hmm.
everything and not judge, but be curious, you know, like me being
Hmm.
curious about why I responded so negatively to him saying he was coming home earlier really led to some real breakthrough. I knew
Yeah.
not to lean into it. Intuitively, I knew that.
Hmm.
Because immediately my subconscious, which again, thank you, subconscious. I love you so much because
Yeah.
immediately it was like, wait, what? Why are you mad?
Yeah.
That's never happened to me before. Like,
Wow.
that immediate in that vein, never. So for it to just immediately go, "Well, man, let's talk. Let's come over here for a second.
Yeah.
What's
That's all
going
the
on?"
work you've done, you
Yes, and it
practice.
does just make me so grateful, seriously,
Yeah.
because life can be so much more beautiful no matter what you are going through when you do the
Hmm.
work and you use these tools. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing that
Yeah.
well, I don't want I don't wanna tempt the universe with shit right now, but, you know, like,
Right.
there's you can get through the hardships that are inevitably going to happen in your
Yeah.
life. It is
Mhm.
you are going to face a lot of
Mhm.
trials, tribulations, but also so much love and joy and beauty if you
Yeah.
just do the work, and it's not hard work. People say that all the time, and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it can feel like that at first because you feel so broken, but
Mhm.
once you get to that stage of the work where you're like, 'Nothing was ever wrong with me.' Like, yeah, I needed to unlearn some stuff and I needed to whatever, but I was great then. I'm
Yeah.
just a better version of myself now. I'm a happier person. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good, but, like, I was so good then too. I was worthy then."
Mhm.
But, you know, that comes a little further in the journey, so I get that,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I just think we can have so much beauty no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a good point. Any bad situation that we're in, any good situation we're in, we can make anything better or we can make it worse. So and that's not to just brush it off. That's not like the toxic positivity of just, "Oh,
Right.
pretend it didn't happen," or anything like
Look on
that.
the
No.
bright side. Yeah.
Right. Feel it, grieve it, go through it, do everything, and get support, get help, get perspective. The all of that, it definitely makes a difference. So, yeah, it's the
I
work
so
is
agree.
so valuable. And it is to really understand too that the stuff of where we got to where we are, that was all learned. What's
Yeah.
learned can be unlearned.
Yes, yes. Well, and I think, gosh, I can remember so vividly that version of me at the pinnacle of a mental health crisis, just being like, it's just too hard to exist in this brain any
Mm,
longer. Like I've done this for so many years and I've tried everything. I just hadn't gotten the right information yet, you know?
right.
But that's, I think, what we think of when we think this is gonna be so hard, but the shifts happen very quickly when you allow yourself to just get curious. If actually, if nobody took anything else from what we've said today, the number one tool that I think they could walk away with for today is that expectations piece,
Mhm,
like not having so many expectations for yourself in the way you think, in the way you breathe, in the way you eat, exercise, whatever, and being curious about why you do things the way you do. Where did
mm.
you learn that? Who
Yeah,
taught you that? You
yeah,
know, that's been a very valuable question for me
yeah,
is who taught you that?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
so much of what we think, we don't even like, unless we force ourselves to trace it back, we don't even, like, realize somebody else taught us that.
yeah, absolutely. And often they taught us from their own trauma responses and their own stuff that they didn't quite work out or handle or learn the better way to do it. So they're just repeating the pattern, and that's where generational trauma exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started to understand exactly why I had done the things I had done, it made it so much easier to fully forgive and release my caregivers for their misgivings because they
Mhm.
did those things for the exact same reason I did.
Yeah.
And so being able to forgive myself allows me to forgive them because we're not any different. Like we all do
Yeah.
the same stuff, it's just in different font. You know, it looks different until you kind of clear the glass a little bit and you're like, "Oh, that really wasn't that different, was it?" Like that whole not enough narrative. I can hear
Yeah.
people saying I'm not enough by stuff that they're saying
Mhm.
out loud. You know, I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's
Yeah.
almost tricky for me to just sit and hear somebody else have a conversation because I'm hearing what they don't even know they're saying all the
Yeah.
time because that's how one we really all are. We really
Mhm.
do struggle with the same stuff. It's just the
Yeah.
human condition. But just
Right.
realizing like, hey, I, I was born to have this experience and sometimes it's going to be tough and other times it's not going to be and both times I get to choose how I show up. And the way I chose before was in a way that kept me very separate from everyone else. Either I was on the pedestal or they were. And we never had to actually, like, look each other in the eye and be vulnerable. I
Yeah.
definitely set myself up for a world that looked like that by telling myself nobody cares about me the way I care about
Yeah.
them and nobody shows up for me the way I do them and whatever. I
Yeah.
wasn't showing up that healthy for others either, Like, just because I would listen to your trauma dump and give you some well-meaning advice or whatever, or any of the rescuing behaviors I've ever exhibited, I was
Mm.
not healthy. I wasn't able to hold people's pain. That's why I was, like, so quick to try to rescue them because it made me
Mhm.
uncomfortable.
Mhm. Yeah. All good points. All good points. And all of those narratives, yeah, they're not helping, and we're again kind of like we're creating that. We're manifesting what we believe already. So let's change that narrative.
Yeah. Is that something that you also see just a lot of?
Yeah. Actually, so this month I'm creating a communication course specifically because of that. Yeah.
Really?
And, when I hear communication course, I think, couples counseling type thing. This isn't communication with a spouse. This is communication within oneself. It is
Mhm.
going to then lead into conversations with our loved ones, but it's because how we talk to ourselves just dictates so much. So yeah, I'm actually building this out on social media because I want people's input. So if I don't know when this episode is going to air, but for the month of February, I'm gathering input for what people think about this and kind of what people need. And then
Nice.
towards March is when I'm going to really build it out and I'm collaborating with others. And so there's a lot of good stuff because how we talk to ourselves is so valuable, what we're saying. And so often, even in my yoga class, I was talking about this the other day. Now, I've had a couple yoga classes that are very slow moving. And so you can kind of get into a pose and just sit there. And yoga can be very meditating. You're just kind of enjoying that moment. But then also when you're kind of in the thick of it, really doing some poses and kind of, okay, moving to the next. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, okay, this one's a tough pose. I can't wait for the next pose," instead of just, wow, I'm getting stronger and this is tough, but I'm getting stronger. My thought is to when it's going to end instead of just enjoying that moment. So I'm trying to even though I'm teaching this is I've done the work for a lot of years. I'm
Yeah.
still finding the stuff that I'm saying to myself. It's like, that's not helping this moment. So it really just adds the narrative matters.
Absolutely. And here's the hiccup for all of us. You have to be able to catch yourself and
Yeah.
identify that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because the lies, first of all, that we can tell ourselves, they're not going to feel like a lie. They're going to
Yeah.
feel like the realest, truest thing you've ever believed in your
Mhm.
entire life. And
Yep.
that's how strong your brain is. And that's how much you've decided that you need things to be this way. So
Mhm.
even when I believe the lie and I'm
Mhm.
I know better. So it doesn't like I'll catch it and I'm like, it just kind of fits into a list of symptoms that I've identified as escaping, avoiding, barriers, protection. We'll say
Mhm.
protective factors, right? So if it kind of fits into this little list of symptoms that I know to be the truth, that this is a pattern of behavior I have, I will be like, okay, but it feels really true.
Yeah.
And I just let it be true, but without a lot of reaction to it yet. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I know it's not true. I'm gonna let it sit here. I know that's not true though.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's not true yet. So I'm gonna figure that out. And then allowing, connecting with my body, allowing the feeling, then I can be like, what's the actual truth here? And then I'll see, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
was trying to protect myself from vulnerability. Oh, I was this. But I guess I'm saying that so that people who don't know how to be more conscious of
Yeah.
those moments instead of just allowing autopilot to take over, believe that there are bigger truths and that oftentimes your little lie that your brain has crafted really perfectly to protect you and keep you safe, it can challenge you and just to be chill about it. And if you are noticing this pattern of behavior, especially if you're a reactive person like I was,
Mhm.
then just get curious about it. Get curious about why you're responding the way you are. Um, Especially if you are starting to believe negative things about
Mhm.
your environment, whether that's your yoga pose or the people in your life. Listen, some people are surrounded by people they shouldn't be around, but for the most part, I would say that's probably not the case. I would
Yeah.
say there's probably likely something you are saying to yourself that's you're working very hard to confirm the lie.
Yeah. And if you are with a bunch of really unhealthy people that are not lifting you up, that are constantly keeping you down, what is it that you're saying to yourself that believes that that's okay and that you deserve that? Yeah.
Right. Oh, the deserve and worth part, that's been real tricky for me because, even finances, this was something I was working a lot on before Jake died, where I would say, there's a belief here that I you deserve this or something.
Mhm.
And then I kind of unraveled, and I still find myself in this a lot. Punishment versus reward with
Mhm.
whatever higher power versus a benevolent force that is fundamentally supporting my growth as a human.
Mm,
I can get really tied down in punishment or
mm,
even reward, but like I have to behave in a certain way to receive a certain amount of financial abundance, whatever. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of caveats to what I'm saying, but I don't think that like conscious me doesn't believe that there is a higher power that is ready to strike me down every time I'm making a mistake or listen to my body and didn't do something for my business because I was tired and needed to sleep. You know,
mm.
like I'm not being punished for any of that.
No.
If I'm having financial pressure, either there's a belief or I'm going to grow through it and I'm going to figure out another step or another way or whatever. But it's not because I'm being punished. And conversely, I'm not necessarily being rewarded because I did something good for someone or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But beliefs
absolutely.
keep you stuck.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things for the people that really just are kinda living on that autopilot that aren't recognizing it quite yet. My question to them is, what are you unsatisfied with in your life? You know, because usually when we're reactionary, even if we're not recognizing that we're doing this because it's just the normal cycle we're in, but often when we're reactionary, we regret it. We're like, "Oh,
Yes,
I wish I hadn't said that." But then
yes.
again, we just keep on that autopilot and then it happens again. So recognizing, okay, what are the areas I'm unsatisfied about? And then putting the spotlight on where you need to put the spotlight to see what's going on internally. Because, yeah,
Ugh,
without that,
yes.
you don't even recognize it sometimes.
That's such a good question to ask
Yeah.
because I don't think that's a question I don't think I've framed it that way to myself before, and I can see how you can get to some truths a lot faster with that
Yeah.
because it's all just a projection of your inner reality. So, what are you doing to create the dissatisfaction? Easy. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that's easy to get to if you're in practice of like
Very
working through
practice.
things like that. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is that like the tools will be used lifelong, but it doesn't take your whole life to
Yeah.
understand these and start using them and be really happy and
It can
at
be
peace.
very quick. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm,
It was very
absolutely.
fast for me. Very, very once I finally got just the first bit of information, which was how to dismantle my shame and get
Mm,
out of my head and then understand where my wounding came from. Boy, because I I could take accountability then. I could be the center of the thing instead of being like, "You're victimizing me in this way."
mm,
I think in terms of communication, this is the thing I always think of is like, we've been taught this little method of like, when you, I feel, right?
mm,
I'm not invalidating that completely.
mm,
But why do you feel that way? And I'm not even
mm.
talking about the super disrespectful stuff. Like, if you're in an abusive relationship and whatever, like, that's a totally different. But in terms of everyday interactions, we really do expect far too much from humans. We really do. Like,
Yeah,
I believed fully that if I said to Brian, it really hurts me when you do that, like, really, that he should never do it again. And if he says he's
mm,
going to work on it, that's your number one priority, never doing that again. And
mm,
then, you know what it took for me to realize how stupid that was? Me being asked to change a behavior and realizing how much I actually do care about how I'm impacting the world around me, but that it's not that easy to integrate new behaviors. Like, it's
yeah,
just not. And I was
yeah,
like, oh no. I was
yeah,
expecting perfection of them and me, but I thought
yeah,
it was okay to have that level of expectation.
yeah,
Versus now, the way I communicate my emotions is just to be like, "Oh, that hit me in that spot. That's what's coming up for me."
Hmm.
There's no expectation actually of any changed behavior on the other person. When I'm communicating it, it truly is me being like, "Oh, that activated something in me. I need to figure
Mhm.
that out." I
Yeah.
may ask, "Hey, I'm a little sensitive to that right now. Like,
Um,
I just want you to be mindful that I'm a little sensitive to that right now." But otherwise, like, I'm not expecting him to just, "Well, if you cared about me, you would just change every last thing about you." My God. Holly, I
right.
did used to think that. I sure did.
Mm.
Sure did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of therapists are out there teaching people that.
Right, right. And yeah, we always have to look internally. And just a note on building new habits. I don't want to repeat it if I said it last time, but did I ever share my machete story of neural pathways of forming habits in the brain? Does that sound familiar?
It was such a lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's
I
true. That's
just
true.
repeat it. Repeat it.
Yeah. So basically, when our brains, and this is very simplistic formatting that I'm going to say it in, but our brains, we have our axons to our dendrites. As soon as we do something new, the that's how the brain works, and then we form a pathway. And the very first time we're forming that pathway, it's like an overgrown forest. There's no path there. So we have to form the path. So we take a machete and we clear that path. That's why the very first time we're doing anything, we're really having to think about it and concentrate and everything. The second time we do it, that path is not clear. That path is starting to be formed, but we still have to take that machete and do it again. The more and more
Mm,
we do something, the better that path comes. And then that path becomes like a slip and slide. It's the automatic thing that we do.
yes.
But our old neural pathway is still there. That old neural pathway is a slip and slide. So when we're trying to do something new, but we fall back into that old pathway, having that understanding and grace with ourselves is so
Mhm.
important. And then making that conscious decision, okay, well, which way do I want to go? Instead of falling back automatically, okay, next time I'm going to have this tool or this reminder to help me make sure I can form this path as good and let that path overgrow.
Yes. Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that. Because you will notice after a period of time, the new path is the autopilot path,
Yeah. Mhm.
but every now and then you're
Mhm.
gonna slip down that other slide.
Another path is
You
still
just gotta
there.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I love that analogy,
Yeah.
actually. I don't think you
Yeah.
did say it that way before, but yeah, I love that because we do have to understand there are neurological reasons that we do the things that we do, and that is okay. So don't work against it anymore. Let it work with you and for you because
Yeah.
it is hard work to start practicing and integrating new skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like,
having that
not just
grace with
automatically screaming at people or having road rage or,
yeah.
as the most reactive person on earth, it was tricky to get to where I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not getting a speeding ticket, so you just keep on driving that fast, I guess." I mean, it actually looks a lot more like, "What is wrong with that idiot?" And then be like, "Oh, actually, I'm not gonna care about that."
Right. Gonna let that one go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, I've had such a beautiful time with you today. I appreciate you so much. Remind us where we can find you.
So positivelivingcoaching.com is my website. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Positive Living Coaching as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll make
Mhm.
sure I will include those in the show notes and I will link our last episode in the show notes as well.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Very nice to
Awesome.
talk to you today. Thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. Hey, hang out for 1 sec.
Okay.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.